Hello, my name is Oliver, and this week I have successfully escaped the workshop. It feels lovely to be outside for a change. Now, that's because it is the beginning of a brand new series on this channel. Many of you will be familiar with this Patrol Blue 1974 Citroen Dyane 6. It belongs to our parents after all, and it's been in 3 videos on this channel so far. I've compared it with my 1963 2CV that is my daily driver. I've reviewed this car and I've also used it as a template for a Citroen Dyane buyer's guide. But I've never really gone into my own history with this car. And I think it's time to do that, because what we're going to do in this series is we're going to go through this car and we are going to freshen it up a bit. We're not going to restore it, but we are going to breathe a little bit more life into it, because after 4 years of wonderful, reliable service, this car is a little bit tired, and I'll explain all. But first, let me tell you how this car came to be in my life. You see, when I moved from Spain to live in France, I needed a brand new car. Well, a new car to me. And the car that I wanted was a 1963-1964 Vert Brune 2CV ENAC. And they are incredibly rare. Now, it took me months to find it. And while I was looking for my car, that is now Jolene, I found this. And this car is an exact replica of a car that my mum had when she was young. But that's getting a bit ahead of myself, because at the time we were in a little bit of a predicament. Because I had no car, that's why I was looking for a car. And my parents had no car, because their Nissan Micra wasn't really worth the cost of importing into France. So I'd found this Dyane, and it wasn't not local, but it wasn't exactly next door. It was about an hour and a half away by bicycle, because the one conveyance that we did have was our road bikes. So my dad and I got on our bikes and we rode an hour and a half to meet an incredibly eccentric Frenchman with a garage full of rabbits. I'm not kidding. So we go into this garage and he brings us through the garage to this garage bay, and there is a very tired, very sorry for itself Citroen Dyane. Now, after having a look around the car, we struck up a bit of a deal. You see, in France it's illegal to sell somebody a car for road use that doesn't have or hasn't had an MOT, or what we call a control technique, within the last 6 months. So my dad talks to the owner, because this Dyane was fresh out of somebody's barn, and they strike up a deal that the owner of the garage will get the Dyane through its control technique and then we'll buy it. So they agree a price, strike up a deal, and we ride home. A couple of weeks later we receive a phone call: the Dyane is ready. So the following day at 6 AM we get on our bikes. It was -5 degrees Celsius. It was absolutely flipping freezing, and we ride the hour and a half to this garage on our road bikes, like I said. On arrival, my dad's hands were so cold and he was so shivering that he couldn't actually sign the paperwork for the car. He had to warm up first. And we put our road bikes, we dismantle the bikes, put them in the back and drive home. The next day, for the maiden voyage of the car, it was driven 2 hours to a local airport to collect my friend. And it became very apparent that even though this car was roadworthy, it wasn't restored and it wasn't original. This was a driver and had been driven. It's not got all the miles on it in the world, but it had been driven and then it had been put away, and all we'd done is all the garage owner had done, should I say, is drag it out the barn, make it roadworthy and sell it to us. So we realised it needed a good service and a good going over. So that's exactly what we did. The following day, after its maiden voyage of 4 hours driving to and from an airport, we gave it a good service. And it it hadn't been properly serviced since, we assume, sometime in the 80s. The oil filter seal had actually completely dissolved and was stuck to the engine block. It took us the best part of a day to get the oil filter off. However, that being said, with just a little bit of love, a little bit of TLC, this car has since driven for 4 years with hardly a spanner being put to it. The amount of work that this car has done is truly astounding, including towing my parents' trailer full of bags of cement, antiques, furniture, you name it, this car has done it. And it has been one of the best workhorses I think they could have possibly asked for, with little more doing to it than regular servicing and the fitting of some dynamite. But I think it's time now to give it a little bit of TLC. Like I said, we're not going to fully restore the car. We don't have time, I'll be honest. We're in the middle of building houses, building Pandora, but it does need some time spent on it, and it is completely unavoidable. So let's get stuck into some of the things that are wrong with it. Now, first things first is the boot floor. The boot floor is unfortunately rusting, and there's a couple of small holes in it, and even though it could be patched, the better thing to do is to replace it. Luckily, all the panels for the Dyane are available. So we have a new boot floor, and we're going to be replacing it completely. One of the reasons the boot floor is rusty is because there's no rear hatch seal, so we're going to have to fit one. The rear shock absorbers aren't just worn and tired, they're actually blown. They blew just yesterday, but the car has been quite understeery for some time. The other thing is that the front end is too low and needs adjusting. The suspension ride height needs setting, and the adjusters are seized, so the entire spring cans need to be removed, freed up and lubricated. Under the car, the chassis is actually in really good order, but the fuel tank has seen better days, so we're going to replace that while we're at it. We'll replace all of the fuel lines as well. Inside, this roof liner has seen better days and needs a good scrub. So while we're at it, my mum actually wants to fit a tartan roof liner, so we'll have to remove the roof completely so she can do that, and then we'll replace the roof. But with this one just cleaned up and made pretty. Here at the rear of the roof, these screws need replacing with studded ones, because there should be a strap that you can fit on here. In 4 years of ownership, my parents have never been able to drive their Dyane with the roof rolled back, which is criminal. So we'll have to sort that out as well as making some cool straps. On the same day that the shock absorbers blew, the indicator stalk snapped, and yeah, that's no good. So we'll have to sort that out. This sliding window runner has cracked, which causes the window to actually unhook if you don't know just how to slide the window properly. So we're going to be replacing both of those. Every time it rains, the windscreen wiper motor makes a bid for freedom. So we'll tighten that up as well as giving it a good service. So other than the fuel tank and the boot floor, it's a very long list of very small things. It's nothing so extreme as replacing the shell or the chassis or the engine. But with these cars, it's often the small things that actually end up costing you the money in the end. All these tiny little jobs all add up, and they can completely change the ownership experience of a car like this. And so that's what we're going to do, except for the fact that it's about to rain and I'm about to get extremely wet. So if you want to follow along, make sure you've clicked subscribe. There's a playlist down there with my 2CV and all the videos I've made with that. There's a playlist there that will be for all the Dyane videos. There's one here for Pandora, and there's a button there to subscribe. So click on my face to subscribe. Thank you all for watching. Please be awesome to each other. And I'm going to run for shelter now. Bye bye.